Well, that's exactly how both sides were painting it. It was a packed East Room just behind me here at the White House. And, you know, what was meant to be a half-an-hour event went on for over an hour and a half. You could feel that both the U.S. president and his team were very relieved that they'd been able to get this over the line. In fact, Robert Lighthizer joked that it was much harder than he thought. That's the U.S. Trade representative. And U.S. President Trump was effusive in his praise for the Chinese negotiating team and Chinese President Xi Jinping. Let's just take a listen to what U.S. President Donald Trump said.
It just doesn't get any bigger than this, not only in terms of a deal, but really in terms of what it represents. Keeping these two giant and powerful nations together in harmony is so important for the world, not only for us, for the whole world.
And it's very important, obviously, for U.S. Companies as well. In fact, the U.S. president went round the room naming the CEOs in attendance. There were quite a lot of them, getting them to stand up. You can tell that he's very, very happy that China will be making additional purchases. And he says that phase two, the next phase of negotiations, will begin right away as well. So there is some sort of momentum. And just, you know, talking about the mood in the room, you know, we've covered these trade talks since they began, 18 months of trade war. And I can tell you the atmosphere a lot more positive between the both sides today at this ceremony than we have seen. Both countries working in their national interests and both managed to get a deal over the line, SCA.
Nathan, what would you say are the big highlights?
Yeah, it's 94 pages, and I've read some of it. In fact, it was released as the U.S. president was making. Obviously, the headline is going to be China's commitment to purchase more U.S. goods. And remember, we were fixated on agriculture as the president was. And basically what they've done is they've set 2017 as a benchmark and are saying that over the next 2 years, $200 billion worth of goods is going to be bought extra by China. Let's just go break it down for you. Manufacturing goods, 77.7 billion. Agriculture, 32 billion extra. Energy, that's like liquefied natural gas, obviously, and oil and coal, 52.4 billion. And services, 37.9 billion. And there's all sorts of phrases in here about how it's going to be implemented. But the key one for me was essentially saying that both China and the U.S. it's up to them how this trade agreement was implemented. So there is no real demand from the U.S. for China to make specific changes in its laws, which, of course, remember, was a major sticking point when both sides stepped back from a deal last May. There is also chapters on all the things that you would think about: intellectual property, ownership, market access, currency. It's a very, very detailed document, a lot more detailed than we were led to believe. But of course, $360 billion worth of Chinese imports are still under tariff. We've been trying to get some sort of clarity from the Trump administration about when those might be rolled back. Would it be incremental as they negotiate phase two? There's even talk of mini deals along the way. Or would it have to wait till the end? They have not exactly said how that is going to go. I don't think they even necessarily know yet. But there are some big structural differences between the U.S. and China, and those very, very important differences will be much harder to negotiate in phase two. But, you know, the good news is, and I think the silver lining, is that tariffs aren't going up. Tariffs have been rolled back, and we have an understanding between the world's two biggest economies. And the U.S. president and everyone in the room echoed this. They all think it's good for the U.S. economy, good for the Chinese economy, and, of course, good for the global economy as a result.